Winter is coming. I don't look so excited. Most of us don't want to think about it, but unfortunately, you're probably a week or two away if you live anywhere near us. But if you're the lucky ones, man, count your blessings.
Yeah.
But that does mean that for many of us, we need to get the chickens ready for winter. So today we're going to talk about a few things we need to consider to get your chickens ready for winter. And these guys are going to help. All right, well, let's move into our discussion on getting chickens ready for winter. First of all, is there really much difference in keeping chickens in winter than any other time of year?
Yeah, that depends on where you live.
Yeah.
If you live someplace like we wish we lived, then there wouldn't be a big difference. But where we choose to live, there are some changes that take place, right, Brian?
Absolutely. Colder temperatures, snow, shorter days, all these things have an impact on your chickens, and it means you're going to have to do something about it. Just like we have differences in our lives during the winter time, we got to put the snow tires on, we got to get ready for shoveling snow and winterizing equipment, and of course changing our wardrobe. Your chickens have some changes that they're going to have to deal with in winter, and many of the differences that we'll discuss here today can affect us as well as our flock of chickens.
Probably more so in a lot of ways. It's going to change the way what we do as chicken keepers more than the chickens themselves.
Yeah.
So
I'd say it looks like we're kind of getting ready for hibernation.
Yes.
Yeah, no kidding. That'd be all right. So let's start with the obvious one, cold temperatures. How does the cold affect your chickens?
Well, one of the main reasons colder temperature is an issue is that it brings the need to get that coop ready. During the wintertime, you want to make sure that there are no drafts in your coop. That's a big thing to make sure you don't have that cold air blowing across the chickens. And maybe you want to consider adding some insulation before winter really sets in. I know we both use deep litter method for our chickens. So now's a good time to maybe clean out some of the old litter, put some clean, dry litter in there that'll help them through the winter and help build up that insulation effect.
Yeah, in addition to, Brian mentioned, hey, you don't want cold drafts, but what you also don't want is stagnant air. You do still need ventilation because what will tend to happen in the wintertime, cold air holds much less moisture than warm air. So you get moisture in the coop, and that's really what harms your chickens is that wet air. So you want to make sure you're continuing to vent that coop and let that wet air out. Again, changing out that bedding, getting some fresh bedding in there just for winter makes things nice and dry and kind of get you set up for the...
Yeah, that combination of cold air and moisture inside the coop, that's really the big problem because that's what's going to cause frostbite issues. Yep. So if you can keep the ventilation but the drafts down and the moisture down, your chickens will be just fine in the winter.
Okay, so you don't want the cold air. How about putting a little heat to the coop? I know I love to sit in front of the heater in the winter.
Yeah, I don't.
Is that a good idea?
I don't blame you. Normally, it's not needed, right? So most chicken breeds, and again, depending on what breed you get and where you live, most chicken breeds are very cold hardy and don't need extra heat. There are some situations where you may want to consider that if you've got a breed that's maybe kind of outside of its zone, or you live where it's really, really cold. Then adding some supplemental heat might want to be something you consider, but there's definitely good ways to do that and bad ways to do that.
Yeah. First of all, don't use heat lamps. Heat lamps are dangerous inside chicken coops. Every year, hundreds of chicken coops burn down because people put heat lamps in there. If you are going to add supplemental heat, make sure you use some sort of safe, approved heater inside the coop. Oftentimes, something as simple as a heater for their water fountain is enough to just generate a little bit of heat and raise the temperature a few degrees and make it more tolerable for them. One of the issues with heating coops is that chickens are inside of a heated coop, but then when they go outside, it's cold out. Yeah. And it's a bigger danger to them, that extreme change in temperature between inside and outside, than actually having to snuggle up inside of a coop that's cool in the wintertime.
Yeah, unlike you and I, they don't need to come in and have a nice warm place. They just something to take that edge off. But if you make it too warm, it can lead to problems then with that changing back and forth.
Yeah, they're built for surviving through colder weather, and especially the breeds that have been developed for colder climates. Those feathers, they keep them warm, and just the way that they're built, they're going to conserve their body heat during the wintertime.
Yeah, and this one, I think I saw this comment even recently, because this is something that comes up. You know, hey, my rooster has a favorite hen, and right now she's half naked because all the feathers on her back and her saddle are gone. But it's going into wintertime. You know, what do? Do I have the saddle on? Do I not? That's one of those things that you have to look at and go, okay, what am I going to do? Because that saddle is going to keep her from ruffling up her feathers and kind of conserving that heat. But on the other hand, she's got bare skin. My experience has been I'm better off without the saddle. But that might be a situation where maybe I want to make sure I bring her inside or have a little extra heat because I've got a chicken that's in a little bit rough shape.
And we've seen online too people who will get these sweaters that they put on their chickens.
They're cute, but
they're cute, but don't do it. It doesn't really help them to conserve body heat because it mats down their feathers and prevents the feathers from doing the job that they were built to do. So.
Yeah. Why do you wear your sweater all winter?
Because he's not a chicken.
I'm not a chicken. I'm not covered in feathers.
He looks good in sweaters, by the way.
Sure.
All right, so I know when winter hits, I tend to eat a little more.
Uh-huh.
So how do chickens' diets change or their habits change when winter comes around?
So that can depend, right? So my flock, and I know Brian's flock, spends a lot of time free ranging out in the yard. Mm-hmm. In winter, that's not as conducive. A lot of times there might be several inches of snow or the ground's completely frozen. So that portion of their diet that they were normally getting is no longer there. And so you may change the way that you want to feed a little bit. Also, those colder temperatures, we burn more energy to stay warm, right? And chickens are going to do the same thing. So they're going to be looking for more energy in their diet as well during the wintertime.
Yeah, and one thing we often neglect is grit. Grit is something chickens need year-round in order to help them with digestion. But when that ground is frozen and covered in snow, they can't access the natural grit that's in the soil, in the environment. So if you aren't already feeding supplemental grit to your chickens during the wintertime, you probably want to do that and make sure you put it in a place where they can access it through the winter.
Yeah, that's a great idea because a lot of times during the winter, so for me, for example, during the winter, I still feed my regular balanced feed, but then they get some extra scratch grains. So I toss them some sunflower seeds and some cracked corn and that kind of stuff. That's exactly the kind of stuff they're going to use grit to break down. Right. So that's a good example of, hey, don't forget that grit's going to be important during the winter as well.
Yeah, and consider feeding your chickens maybe a couple hours before dusk, because at nighttime, that's when they're really going to burn a lot of calories to conserve that body temperature. And by having that high energy right before they go into roost for the night, that's going to really help them get through the night as well.
I mean, digestion is a heat-producing process. As chickens digest the food, one of the things that comes of that is body heat that they can use to then stay warm. So if they get a little bit of, that's why I like to say, I have my feed that stays out there all day long, but then each night, evening as I go put them away or whatever, I throw little scratch grains out. That gives them a chance to kind of get up and move, get around, get that last little bit of light, but then as they go in and settle in on the roost, they've got a little something in their belly that they can kind of work on at night and keep them warm.
And in addition to food, you don't want to neglect the water as well.
Absolutely.
Wintertime, chickens need water just like they do the rest of the year, but wintertime, their waters tend to freeze. So you need to be careful and make sure that they have access to clean water throughout the day, and sometimes that means going out and busting the ice.
Yeah,
and
back to where we started. Sometimes the changes in winter are more on the chicken keeper than the chicken.
Yeah.
That's an example, right? And I see a lot of stuff online, and I can keep my chicken water if I put some water bottle with some salt water, and that's great for those of you who live where it might dip down to 30. We're talking 30 below zero for extended periods. That don't work here,
Right.
The only thing I can do is what I found works best for me is a heater, right? You've got to have a 5-gallon bucket with a submersible heater in the nipples, or what I tend to use most is just a heated dog dish.
Yeah.
But those get dirty, they get fouled up, they get emptied. So that every day, at least once a day, I got to go out, and I have a couple of them just to make sure, but go clean them out, make sure they're full, because without water, those chickens are going to be hurting in a hurry.
Yeah.
Water is super important, even in the winter when it's cold. They've got to have the water, so that's something to keep in mind. That's a good point, Brian.
All right, so I know that one of my favorite things to do is to drive to work in the dark and drive home in the dark.
Well,
As I'm sure
good,
you guys
because
love
you're
it.
going to get a lot of that over the next few months.
So with the shorter days, obviously we have less daylight, sunlight. Does that matter to our chickens?
Sure.
Yeah.
It matters to you, doesn't it? Right?
Oh no, I love it.
Right. I forgot about that. Sunshine's important, right? Light is important. Where we normally see this, and this comes up, is you're going to see a dip in egg laying. Mm-hmm. So normally chickens need about 14 hours of light to consistently lay. Again, there's going to be some differences with breed and that kind of stuff. But as those daylight hours start to get shorter, you'll see the nesting boxes get
Fewer and fewer
emptier
eggs.
and emptier,
Yep.
right? So you're not going to see the number of eggs. Now, you can choose to artificially light and keep that production up. Some people do that. I know you and I both don't. I've done it in the past. I've decided it's not worth the effort for me. Usually because by the time I get out there, the eggs are frozen anyway. So I like to let my chickens have a break.
Yeah, and if you are going to add supplemental lighting, a couple things to consider here. One, you don't need a really bright light, right? Just a 25-watt bulb, or even just a string of Christmas lights, something like that, gives them enough light, supplemental lighting, that they'll continue laying. Like you said, we like to give them a break. A lot of that is because that's what they naturally would do in the winter time. A lot of the high production breeds, they're going to lay well in the winter if you give them supplemental lighting, but that means that their laying lifespan is going to be shorter as well. They're not going to lay for as many years at high production levels if you add the supplemental lighting and have them laying through the winter.
So if you put light in there, do you have to put it on a timer or just leave it on 24/7?
Yeah, put it on a timer.
Chickens
for
need
sure.
darkness as well.
Yep.
They need at least their regular dark, 8 hours of dark a day.
Yeah, if you leave the light on all day, they're not going to sleep well. And a chicken that doesn't sleep well is a lot like me when I don't sleep well. They're going to be grumpy. They're not going to feel as well. It can affect their health. So yeah.
And I mean, you can buy those timers now that are super cheap. A little timer and a string of Christmas lights. You're talking just a few dollars, and you can, if that's what you want to do, that's fantastic. But yeah, don't leave it on all the time.
And like you've mentioned before, if you're going to add supplemental lighting, what time of day you add it really matters. You don't want them in the evening to go from having all this light to suddenly there's nothing, and they haven't gone to roost yet. It can be a struggle for them. So if you're going to add supplemental lighting, do it in the morning time rather than the evening.
Yeah. And again, just back on the overall light conversation, as much as possible, you still want to get those chickens out, right? Sunlight's good for them. Yep. That's where they get a lot of their vitamin D, is they actually synthesize that from sunlight. So having them out, having some fresh air, getting some exercise, those are all good things even in the wintertime. So providing some access, if you have a nice day, let them get out and run around a little bit. And sometimes they're like, you see what's out there, they don't want, I get it, they don't want to, but sometimes they're happy just to get out of that coop. So.
And sometimes you want to encourage them to come out of the coop too,
Right,
and that again means more work for us. If you got a snow-covered ground, they might look at that and say, I don't want to go, but you want to keep their doorway clear. You want to have some clear ground, so it might mean going out and shoveling some snow in the run so that they have an area that they can exercise in. Again, more work for us than it is for them.
This weekend's project for me. I'm still trying to get that cover on the run because it makes a big difference when is how much they want to go outside and walk around. So
I actually just had the duck video in my feed the other day where the ducks come running out into the snow, get about 5 steps in, turn around, and I'll run back into the coop. So.
That's like me during the winter time. I'm excited to go outside, but then I get about 3 or 4 steps, and
Never
it can
mind.
wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, so it looks like there's a lot of things we need to do to prepare for winter with your chickens. I think you guys gave a lot of great advice. Is there anything that we've missed? We'd like to hear about it in the comments.